Hi guys, so today we are making a skirt. Here I am taking out my length measurement and my width measurement. It's advisable that you square those out before you start creating or drafting your pattern. So next, after doing that, I am going to label them. First, the first square I got was going to be 0, and then there is 1, and I'm going to label this side 2 and here 3. Then I am going to get my center seam line. And for me to get that, I am going to measure the widest part of my body, which is the hip line. And in order for you to get that, you divide that by 4 and square it out. Then the next thing for us to do is to actually get our waistline. But before doing that, please don't forget to label your line so you can tell where the center front is and what piece is the center back. Here is my waist and down here is my seam line. So the next thing that you see me doing here is taking my first hip measurement. Now, why am I taking my first hip measurement? The first hip measurement is always advisable to take 10 cm away from your waist. Now that would help with the curve on the side seam of your skirt or your trouser, depends on what you're making. So after taking that, I'm going to get the original length of my hip. And that is 9, so I'm going to take that all the way down from the center back to the center front. And I'm going to square that out. After doing that, I'm going to put the numbers from 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I keep going and keep cutting. So now we are going to get the waist measurement, and the waist measurement, feel free to take your own waist measurement and measure that by, divide that by 4, then add 1 cm to the side for your dart. And you do the same thing for the front, but just remember that the front dart is usually or is advisable to be a little bit different so it falls properly on your stomach. Here we are getting out our waistline, so we have gotten the waist of our skirt, and now we are going to take that up by 5 cm, by half an inch, and then we're going to square that out. That is going to help us get the curve of our waist. So now we're going to square out that 5 inches, now we're going to square out the ½ inch we took out from the top of the waist to help with the curve of our waist. Now after that's done, we are going to walk towards getting our darts. Make sure you don't forget to label them, so when cutting you would know what number is linking to what number. It always helps. So now we are getting our dart. We're going to divide that and get the midpoint, and at the midpoint we're going to take that down by 5 inches. That should be about 55 cm or so, and then we do the same thing for the front, but at the front, the difference so we get a perfect dart is, so it doesn't have that bulge or that pouch in front, is we divide that by 3. we divide our measurement on the center front by 3, and when you get that, you square that out. That will be your front waist measurement. Sorry, that will be your dart measurement. So now the next thing we are doing here is so what we're doing here is getting the 5 inches of our dart, because I didn't do that earlier, and then we're going to get quarter of an inch on the side of our, that would be the width of our dart, and we're going to take the lines of the dart and connect them. Now we have the dart for our center back, and the next one is to get the center front dart. Now, like I said, the center front dart is totally different. For you to get that, it's advisable that you take 2 cm out from the original dart line where your dart stops, and then you get half an inch on each side of the waist of the dart, and you connect that line to the top, and then you connect the other part of the dart to that first line you had taken from the dart. The second line you have taken from the dart. Guys, I'm sorry about this. So now we have a perfect dart. As you can see, our front dart and our back dart are not the same. The front dart is a little bit slanted in order for it to help the pouch and the stomach or whatever, so it doesn't just shoot out. So now we're going to connect that number to number 10, and we're going to straighten the lines out, and that is going to help us with our hip measurement and the curve. So this is going to help get our side seams perfectly. So guys, make sure you pay attention. I'm connecting these lines together. So 15 connecting back to 10, and I'm connecting 12 to 10. Then I am going to go 1 cm in, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other hip. That is going to help with our curve instead of having to use a straight line to connect it. Once you do that, you connect those points to the waist and down to the second hip line. Now, the reason why I'm taking out these lines is for me to get a perfect side seam. And I'm doing it because I do not want to have straight cuts. I want my cuts to be curvy. So for me to get the perfect curve at the same point on my side seam, I am always doing this. It just helps. So now I'm going to get a hip curve to rule out where those lines meet, not for me to have a sharp edge, right? So I'm going to put it together and just straighten out that point. And I'm going to do the same thing for the center front. Then I'm going to connect the other lines we had taken to give the perfect curve to the waist. Can you see? And I'm going to do the same thing for the center back. Perfect. So now with the darts, we are going to work on connecting the darts so we can get a perfect curve for our dart and our waist also, I mean, for those people that are doing bands, that's fine. This also helps you in getting the measurement for your band. So what I'm doing here is I'm using my tracing curve wheel to, I'm sorry, my tracing wheel to align my waist so it's not jumping, because after putting the darts to face each other, it has like this little bulge. So make sure you put your darts down flat, and then you take like a different color marker to trace out the lines you had used your wheel to bring out. That would help show your dart area perfectly on your pattern. Then I'm going to get my curve ruler to just straighten out, give it that perfect curve on the waist. It's always advisable to use your curve lines and also work with a pattern before you cut any outfit. Don't just go and cut your outfit straight on fabric, because it's just going to look like a proper garment construction work. No attention to detail. So for you to put more attention into detail, work with patterns so you get all your sides complete, and make sure you label it out. Here I'm labeling my side seam lines, I've labeled my dart lines, and here I have a perfect pattern out. I'm just going to straighten out the line for my dart on my center back. I had forgotten to do that. Then I'm going to cut out my pattern for me to sew the skirt. Yes, here is my waist. I'm gonna cut this, gonna start from here. Yes, and I go all the way down to that curve on the hip, and then do the same thing for the center back and get out all this parts that I don't need. Can you see the way I followed that area? I had to go through the curve. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking the 1.5 inches for my back seam, for me to have back allowance. So that's what this line is. Then I'm going to cut out the excess, and here we are, our pattern is ready. So I'm gonna throw it on fabric. I'm going to pin it all together so it doesn't jump when I'm cutting. And then I'm also going to follow through my darts, create those notches so I have it perfectly. Here is my facing for my waist, because I'm not using a band. Like I said, I am using a facing. So it's very easy. Use the pattern you have for your front, your center front and your center back, and trace out the side, and then make sure you have like 5 inches, half an inch allowance, and connect those lines together and cut it out. So I really hope you enjoyed that tutorial. This is what the skirt looks like, the finished look, and it's very easy. I prefer skirts that don't have bands, because then it helps keep your stomach flat. But then for those who are lucky to have very flat stomachs, I think whichever one you choose works better. But then here is a bandless skirt. So we worked with a facing instead, and this is what it looks like. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Have a nice day. Bye.